Hello, Kim Townsel here. Today's topic is fear. What are you afraid of? I'm out here on my front porch today. It's a little cold and a little rainy, so my hair is a little bit frizzy, but I'm out here waiting for my nails to dry, which I've somehow already managed to mess up. And having my coffee, my black waffle coffee in my Starbucks mug, and thought about fear. What are we afraid of? People are afraid of different things. Some people are afraid of flying. Some people are afraid of dying. Some people are afraid of disease. Some people are afraid of death. Some people are afraid of commitment, of marriage, of long-term relationships. Other people are afraid of snakes and spiders. Some people are even afraid of docks. Some people are afraid of heights. Some people are afraid of losing their job, of getting fired, of getting laid off, not being able to provide for their families. Some people are afraid of not being a good, fulfilling their roles as whatever they might be, mother, sister, daughter, father, mother, grandparent, worker, whatever they might be. Think for a moment, what are your top 3 fears? What are your top 3 fears? What are the 3 things that you're most afraid of in life? Stop and think about that for a minute before we proceed. Strangely enough, from the time I was a child, I just somewhat assumed that I was going to have to deal with cancer, so I wasn't really afraid of that. I just kind of knew that was going to happen. But something I was really afraid of was scuba diving. It just didn't make sense to me. How can you breathe underwater through a tank? It didn't make sense to me. I was really afraid of that. Early on, I got over my fears of dying, of death, disease, things like that. And as I got older, I actually had a fear of commitment, I guess. It just seemed like I would be giving up too much for what I might gain. I decided to address my fears, and this is what I did. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little fearful, nervous, anxious when I got married for the second time, when I went scuba diving, when I went skydiving, before my first, second, and third, and probably the rest of my powerlifting meets, but those all turned out well. I was a little bit nervous, anxious, excited before I presented my dissertation data to a room full of people at a national conference, and I was a little nervous, excited, anxious before I went to tactical response for fighting pistol and then back for advanced fighting pistol. But everything worked out great. I'm glad I did not let fear keep me from having these experiences. Another fear I had when I got older was my children. One served in the Army, one served for the Army as a civilian, and they both went overseas, and so I had a great fear of them not returning stateside or not returning whole, and I ended up having to face that fear. I just imagined what would I do, and these are the ways that I've addressed my fear. Maybe they can help you too. So I had 3 things that I did to try to address my fears. The first thing was I just imagined, well, what if this happens? What is going to be the worst case scenario? What's going to happen if blank happens? What happens? The second thing was to research. Okay, if this does happen, what are my options? What are the pros? What are the cons? What options do you have in the event that this does happen? And then the third thing was just to imagine, how would I deal with it? How would I deal with that? Not to get too personal, but I really had to work through some things about when my children were overseas, and I had to let them go because those are their choices to want to go and do that. And my worries and my fears about that could not disable me, neither could they hinder them from doing what they believed that they needed to do. I had to get over those fears. I did the same thing to get over my fear of scuba diving. I just don't want to be beholden to fears that I might have. So I thought best way to get over that fear was just to jump right in it. So I hope this helped. It helps me. I really don't want to go through life afraid of anything. I've just developed these strategies to, whatever comes up, to not be afraid of it, just to say, okay, well, if such and such happens, what are you going to do about it? I did the same thing before I went to tactical response. It was scary, but I did my research, I did my what if, and I did my what are you going to do if the worst case scenario happens, which is if I get shot by somebody I don't know, which was the worst case. I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll deal with it. So sometimes just addressing our fears, and when we do the research, we think, it's not going to be that bad if I do this. It's not as bad as that tornado thinking that runs around in our head that keeps us from doing a lot of things. I encourage you to find out what your fears are, to do the whole what if, to do some research, and then think about, well, how would you deal if that happens? And then it doesn't even seem like an overbearing fear at all. It's just something that, okay, if this comes up, I've already dealt with how I'm going to handle that. Thanks for watching. Do all that good YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Share the video if you like. And until next time, don't be afraid of anything.